You got to move it, move it, move it, move it.
Move what?
Your body, of course, is the second key to vitality.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
So we're excited that we've created for you free access to over 503 Life's Inside Track episodes where we share insider tips, how to make the most out of your home, and even really how to just do good with your money. And the great news is you get access to them from home, from the office, or on the go. So what we're going to discover in this episode is your identity often determines the body habits that you're willing to take on.
That's interesting.
Right? Because if I believe, and this was my belief for many years, I was a terrible swimmer. Well, everybody told me that was my identity. And it all started when I was 12 years old. And yes, we're going to go there. And I took swim class with the 5-year-olds and they passed and I didn't. So I determined I couldn't swim and I didn't ever need to swim again. So I started the identity. Then when we had the kids, we decided they were going to swim and they'd become lifeguards. So they were great swimmers. So we just perpetuated the idea that I was a lousy swimmer and I couldn't swim and I was going to sink and I was going to die and all that stuff. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then I had an experience probably 8 or 9 years ago now where I was in a resort actually, or at a retreat. And I thought, that's a bunch of nonsense because every time I'm out in the water, I've never drowned. I've never almost drowned. I always managed to swim. So when it was dark and there were people within earshot, but no people with me. So if I did drown, they were going to save me. And I jumped into the deep end. Oh, they would if it was my niece. She loves me. And so I jumped into the deep end out of really fear and trepidation. Great news is I swam and I started doing lengths in that pool. And I started to change and understand that I was a swimmer, maybe not the strongest swimmer ever known, but I was a swimmer. And then some time passed and I had several opportunities to swim and jump in pools. And I just started building a new confidence. Mm-hmm. Like if you ever found yourself that until you do the thing, you can tell yourself a story that isn't actually even true anymore. But once you start doing it, there's too much evidence to stay stuck in the old identity. Right? Yeah. Maybe that's happened for you as well.
Yeah, you try on something and you try it on more and more times. It's kind of like my bright shirts. The first time I put one on, I go, oh, that's not me. And people now say, oh, you can carry that shirt really well. Well, I'm the same person. I'm just used to wearing them now.
Right. And the first one you bought was in one of the islands. We were on a cruise and he saw this beautiful, it was actually,
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. Loved the shirt. And there's something about when you're on holiday, you're a little more relaxed and it gave you the courage to try it on. Whereas had we been in Canada or even in the States or elsewhere, probably you wouldn't have done it.
Tried on that paisley shirt.
You wouldn't have. It was purple paisley or mauve paisley, right? Purpley mauve. And it looked amazing. And now that one would be very tame compared to what you would like to wear, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much all the time.
So my identity changed. And you can do the same thing with your body and movement. Like, for instance, if you always say, oh, I'm tired, I'm lethargic, I sit on the couch because I got no energy. Is that really true? Like, for instance, if there was a fire and your kids were on the other side of the house, would you run over there to get them out? You know, provided the fire's not between you and whatever. But could you get up and run over and get the kids out of bed and drag them outside? Would you have the energy for that?
I would think so.
Oh, I think so.
Right.
So suddenly you do have energy.
Exactly. So as you continue to shift your experience with yourself, your identity can start to shift. And therefore you become now, if you see yourself as athletic, you do athletic things.
Yeah. And the habit of doing athletic things creates that level of energy. Like I play soccer, I play hockey, I have a trainer, you have a trainer. And those habitual times and set times cause us to trick ourselves into being energetically. Do I want to get out of bed? Or I'm actually usually already out of bed, but do I want to go out in the cold or the heat at 6 a.m. to drive half an hour to a hockey rink to put on all this stinky gear and get out on the ice?
And it does stink.
Yeah. It does, because
Yeah.
I sweat when I play hockey. And yet once I'm on the ice, I got tons of energy. I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's part of my vitality. I look forward to it during the week. I'm counting the days. Oh, how many days left till I can play hockey again? It's just a total mindset change. And the physicality of it improves my energy mentally. So
It all
that's where
works
the
together,
vitality
right?
comes in.
One of the things I've loved about the concept of getting a new identity when it comes to physical is it rubs off on other people. Right? Like
Tell me
when,
more.
when I was in Aruba by myself for a few weeks, I decided if I can swim in a pool, this was a few years after I was starting to become a swimmer. So I started swimming in the ocean. First time out, I did 25 strokes out, 25 strokes back. I was scared. I hadn't swam in open water before, certainly not by myself. There were people on the beach, but so I started to shift my perspective of myself. And then by the end of that day, I'd managed to do 100 out and 100 back. I was starting to get some rhythm and some groove. So I just kept going in the water, building my courage, building my confidence, and building my ability. And as I was coming in, and this was still day one, another woman sitting on the shore, like in about 6 inches of water, looked at me and she said, "That's so neat. You're a swimmer. I wish I was a swimmer." And that reinforced my identity in what I was doing. And I was able to help her navigate becoming a swimmer because she was petrified. But she eventually was doing 25 strokes out and 25 strokes in. For her, we started at 5 strokes out, 5 strokes in. Right? So just by being physical yourself in the midst of others and being open to engage with them, it shifted everything for her. We still stay in touch. It's just kind of cool that I wasn't set out to have my habit of becoming a swimmer shift anybody else's. And yet it happens. So there's a ripple effect. It's pretty cool. We're talking about swimming because it's the whole ripple thing, right? ripple in the water.
Yes,
so there's a ripple effect to your habits impacting it. So it's part of being a generational legacy person.
Somebody that left a legacy on our bodies was Mo Anderson. Mo Anderson was a school teacher, and then she became the CEO of Keller Williams Realty International. And she was telling a story about one day she was going to school and she really didn't feel like doing it. And then once the kids arrived and she started to do it, by the end of the day, she was energized. She loved doing it. And then she realized that if you act enthusiastic, you'll become enthusiastic. So now Yetta and I will do this thing where Mo Anderson taught us that we'll drive our hand down our left hand. Everybody try it. If you're listening, it's hard for you to visualize, but
Go
my
to
left
the
hand's
YouTube.
going down and I'm going, if you act enthusiastic, you'll be enthusiastic. If you act enthusiastic, you'll be enthusiastic. And as we keep doing that, maybe 5, 6, 7 times, our energy level goes through the roof.
Impossible not to shift just by moving your body. Everything shifts.
So what we'd like you to do is reflect what habits get you moving and what of your habits get you stuck. And thanks for the privilege of growing alongside with you because we're passionate about helping ourselves and others be positioned for generational legacy.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.